Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Champagne Wives podcast. I'm your host, Kelly.
And I'm your co-host, Nicole. Hey, gals.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, boo.
Good. Okay, let's jump into it.
Let
Because
me get straight into it.
we have bottles open, glasses are poured, two are with champagne, one's with water. Champagne Wives podcast, but we don't have to drink champagne all the time.
We don't. And I'll just say I drank a lot over the weekend.
Enough for the both of us.
Yeah, for all three of us, actually. Okay. So I'm giving champagne a break today, but there's more than enough to go around.
Speaking of three of us, you see we have a guest, our first guest of the season. So excited to have RaQuel Hopkins here. Yay! We need our round of applause. Let me give you her bio. It's extensive. We've cut it down. She's done a lot. She's accomplished a lot. But thrilled to have you here. And let me let folks know who you are, what you do. So RaQuel has 10 years of experience working in human resources development in the telecommunications industry, with her most recent role as vice president of HR in a global organization. RaQuel is also owner of Success is Complicated, where she partners with individuals and business clients on removing barriers for greater success. She has worked with Apple, T-Mobile, Visa, American Express, Salesforce, and more. She holds an MBA in international business from the University of St. Thomas. She has a master's in mental health and clinical counseling, and she holds a PCC from the International Coaching Federation, RaQuel is a wife, mom to two boys, and works part-time as a therapist. Welcome.
Talking about me?
That's you. Hey, that's a lot.
That's you. I told you she was accomplished.
She's very accomplished.
She's accomplished. Yes. Well, welcome,
woman.
We were able to use our monogram glasses today. I'm so excited. Thank you to a very special someone who purchased these. Appreciate it. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So, question for you, Quell. Tell us a little bit more about what you do with Success is Complicated.
So it's a cross between counseling and coaching. And just like the bio said, it's figuring out how do we get people to optimize? What does it look like to really live your best life? When I started the brand Success is Complicated, it was just based off of my own journey. I was working as VP. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was pacing back and forth between the office and I was like, damn, this is a good job. The money is good, but I'm not happy. And I was thinking about like all the things that I was going to lose. And what I realized is so many other people actually experience it, especially from adulthood. So when I got into mental health, and we're all moms, right? You know, when you go to the doctor and the doctor is like, okay, your child is on track for developing. These are the milestones. These are the gaps. Yeah. And as I went through the mental health program, I was like, well, you know, do you have any milestones for adults? Like, what should we be looking for? Because you do all of these things, you go through life and you start to check all of these boxes and it's like, okay, what's next? And when I found myself there, what I realized is when I started sharing my story, other people were like, me too. So eventually I made the leap and I would say that for mine, I felt like I went from shit to sugar.
Elaborate, because that's a big jump, child.
Shit to sugar. So growing up, I would say I didn't have a lot. I grew up in the projects. Very proud of it too in a lot of ways because it made me who I am. And then when I got to college, I found out that we had a family member that had made it. And it changed the trajectory of like our family and this whole idea of generational wealth, but I struggle with it. And I was like, well, I didn't really sign up for this. Wasn't really expecting, I was okay with having success, but not necessarily all of the other things that came with success. So I struggled a lot. And all of that helped me birth Success is Complicated. And what I realized is, because there were a lot of things, one of the things I remember people used to tell me, well, you don't know what it's like to work in corporate America because you've been under your uncle's wing. And I'm like, well, I get like 10 emails a week that tells me like you're incompetent, which is why I have like 20 degrees because I was like, all right, well, let me do this to prove that I'm not incompetent. So still had some of the same experiences. And what I realized was it didn't really matter your situation, your role, title, or whatever it was in life. Like you weren't exempt from pain, from challenges. So that's where Success is Complicated came from. So it's all about expressing this level of vulnerability while also being okay with saying that I'm still figuring it out. Because even though I have all of those credentials on paper, I will be the first to tell you, like, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. And I always tell people that while I may speak from as a matter of fact, it's only true because I feel that it's true. It's just like you and I, when you talk, it's true because you say you say that it's true. So when I started my journey in 2019, I was like, all right, I just need something different. I need to step outside of the world that I was in, because I spent a lot of time protecting my peace. And I think I told you, like, there's not a lot of peace in protecting your peace because I was miserable. I was closing off my circle. I don't want this person in my circle, trying to protect my family. And it was exhausting. Yeah. It was draining. And then in 2019, I was like, you know what? I hate HR. I was like, I do not want to work at HR anymore. But I was frustrated. I was angry in a lot of ways. So I was like, let me see if another career would give me the same money that I'm making. And I found out, not really.
Not so much.
Right. And I was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and get into this coaching space. And then when I got into the coaching space, how I ended up with a second master's was I was like, well, I need a backup plan because when I do make that decision, I don't know if I'm going to go back. So I got into coaching, and then I was like, there's not a lot of information or knowledge out there about coaching yet. So I was like, let me enroll back in school because coaching and the mental health combines well. And then life just took another turn, and then I was like, I got obsessed with mental health in a different way, because especially for us, I know this is Black History Month, but I have a lot of thoughts about how we view mental health, like what's being told to us. And I believe that if you're going to transform and grow, you have to be willing to knock up everything that you think you know about life or your roles or your identities and flip it upside down. Right. And that's what I was willing to do in 2019 when I started my journey. So Success is Complicated is for the everyday person.
And it's so funny that you say that, because I had a ladies' lunch, a very nice ladies' lunch this past weekend, and it was a table full of just educated, successful women like yourself. And, the conversation started to take a turn where we started to talk about careers, and, everybody could be happy with where they are now, right? Not have to switch careers, could do this career for forever until they retire. But, people had different goals and visions for their lives and goals on their list that were not accomplished. And so the question then becomes, do I go back and I accomplish some of those goals, even though they may put me they may put me in maybe a worse situation than I'm in? For example, I'm an entrepreneur. My time is my time. Do I want to go back and work a career where I have to be present, where I have to deal with, people, the very emotionally intense and heavy career? But it's something that I've been, looking forward to and working towards, from college up until now. It's just something that I never got a chance to do, but it's on my bucket list, so to speak. And so how do you make the decision to do that? And I know you talked about like everybody having their own, your thoughts are your thoughts, your thoughts are your thoughts, and that's fine. But how can people kind of come to terms with their decision to switch gears like that?
I think you have to be okay with uncertainty.
Uncomfortable with discomfort.
Because, I always say when you are going to be courageous, certainty doesn't live there. And for me, when I made my decision, it was about being courageous, because just a few things that I didn't have to, I never worried about losing my job. I mean, why? Because my uncle, he ain't gonna fire me, right? It just wasn't gonna happen.
Talk about nepotism and how it's great for the Black community. Others have been doing it for years, baby.
But we struggle with it the most. We do. Because no matter how much, I knew that it was my uncle's establishment, I still felt like I had to do the same thing that you probably feel like you have to do in corporate, because I didn't earn my spot.
And because people, your own are looking at you, you know, and saying she's only here because of her uncle. Exactly. And discrediting you.
Yep. Always. 10 years.
And that's why she got all those degrees.
Exactly. 10 years.
Exactly.
So going back to your question, Kelly, I would say you have to be okay with uncertainty. A lot of times, especially as adulthood, right, we want to know, well, what's the reward in it? And you have to be okay with not knowing what the reward is. If anything, it's okay, what is the benefit? Is the benefit, maybe you're going to feel more fulfilled. You're going to feel empowered. You're going to feel like you're marching to your own beat in your drum. Because right now I got 10 jobs.
She a Jamaican. You ever heard that?
I got 10 jobs. I do. But I wanted to maintain a certain lifestyle, if I'm being honest. Even though I was comfortable with giving it up, I was like, I still worked very hard to get here as well. So one of the things, when I started my journey in 2019, and I was introduced in, I mean, we can just talk freely, right?
Welcome to the Champagne.
My journey, I got introduced. I came from being in a company where the black man was running it. Head nigga in charge.
Yes.
And I,
love to see it.
2019, I put myself in a space with all white people, and I was so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. In that coaching program, the first thing that I learned was learning not to be a victim. And I struggled with it because I was like, well, I got some reasons why I can be a victim. Number one, I'm black. I'm a black woman. Just excuses. And when I started to understand what it meant to be a victim, and even like what had led me there, I was like, you know, you start to feel helpless and hopeless when you feel like you don't have options. So I say, going back to your question, being okay with uncertainty and always setting yourself up for possibilities, options. Like, you always want choices. Like, I didn't want my only choice to be working for my uncle. Like, that was one choice. So that's kind of what propelled me at that time. So I would say uncertainty and setting yourself up for opportunity.
I love that.
And they say that, you know, when like opportunity is when success meets preparation, or success is when opportunity meets a, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know the saying though.
Okay, the saying is success is when opportunity meets preparation. So you have the opportunity, you've done the things academically and from an experiential standpoint to be prepared for the opportunity when it presents itself. And so there's nothing but success that's on the other side of that. Success is complicated.
It is.
And seen. So you had mentioned something about kind of the vulnerability of it all. And I think that's something that we as Black people, but probably even more so as Black women, struggle with. Struggle with just allowing ourselves to have that moment of transparency, maybe weakness, depending on who's describing it. How do we not have all of those feelings around vulnerability? What would you say about that?
So vulnerability it's interesting because the setting does matter. I would say that I'm a very vulnerable person, but in my marriage, for example, not. Or I wasn't vulnerable. So I think it really depends on the setting, and you have to know why. I would say, and I can only speak for me because I talk to a lot of people. Growing up where I come from, your business was in the streets anyway. Like, I'm like, they be like, how'd your mama die? And I'm like, a seizure. And they were like, actually, her mama overdosed. And I'm like, you got to be vulnerable at that point. So that's what I felt. That's what I've always felt. So vulnerability came natural to me because you're not going to be able to tell it before I can tell it, because I don't want to live in that place of shame. And then eventually adulthood exposed something a little bit different because I didn't have an image to maintain. So I think it's, when we talk about vulnerability, it's what are we trying to protect? And I would say it's less about what do you do, but what is the question that you ask yourself? Like, what am I trying to protect by not being vulnerable?
That's a good question, because I also I'm very good at being vulnerable, but in certain spaces I am not. And when I think back on the situations where I am least vulnerable, is to protect myself from being hurt. And I think that may be the case for a lot of people, but in like, for example, you said in your relationship, you know, you were not vulnerable, but you had to change that. And I don't think that, you know, a relationship, a romantic relationship is sustainable, particularly a marriage, when, you know, two people can't be vulnerable with each other. I think it makes it very difficult to sustain a healthy and a happy relationship when there's no vulnerability. So how do you get over that hump? Outside of therapy, look at Nicole. She's like those eyes, like how do you get past
force,
that?
and then
Force.
Force is one side, right? Because there are certain things in life that will force you to show your hand. I think it's grace, though. Like one, not applying pressure to yourself to be vulnerable, because that goes back to choice, right? You don't have to be a victim to vulnerability either. Like if you don't want to be vulnerable, don't be vulnerable. And that starts to allow you to open up a little bit more. Because I always tell my clients, like, force only creates a counter force. If you sit down and you're like, okay, I feel like I know RaQuel, I can talk to her, I want to be vulnerable, and then I say something that triggers you, right? You're probably like, what did I do that for?
Right.
So recognizing that you have an option, you get to choose whether or not you be vulnerable, because vulnerability doesn't look the same for everybody. And that's something that I was thinking about a couple of weeks ago. I was like, authenticity and vulnerability doesn't look the same for everybody because we all have a different journey. So just really not forcing yourself to be vulnerable, because it may not work in your favor the way that it works in my favor, depending on who's in your circle, depending on what you're sharing. So don't force yourself to feel like you have to be vulnerable. Like if it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen.
I feel that way. And I feel like if you have to force yourself, then that's spirit, that's God telling you that that's not the person for you to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, and it will, transparency, authenticity, vulnerability, all of those things I feel like will come naturally when you feel like it's a safe environment for you to do that, whether it's in a friendship, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's, you know, with a boss or whatever. So if it feels forced, I mean, for every action force, there's an opposite and equal reaction force.
Right.
And it's typically not good.
Right.
Okay, and just for the record, I feel like quitting my job like every other week. So,
Girl,
I mean, you're not alone.
Day, I'd be like, what are you doing?
I felt like I
here?
needed to mention that. Okay, so in the line of work that you do with Success is Complicated, and I know y'all thought that when we did the bio and the introduction that because she's in HR that we were going to be here talking about HR topics, but haha, joke's on you. No, we're talking about other stuff, really cool stuff. So thinking about the line of work you do with Success is Complicated and the folks and the clients that you work with, without giving too much detail on or, you know, around kind of some private matters, curious to know what challenge or struggle do you find most prevalent or common with the people that you're working with, and what's really fueling that?
I would say it's two things.
Okay.
The first thing would be people want the code. They want you to say, here's the code to doing life. And there is no code. The only way to do life is to go through life.
Just do it.
Yep. And then I would say the second thing is, especially with mental health being such a hot topic, is people want to be coddled in a lot of ways because all of your feelings matter. And if you see my Instagram post, I don't subscribe to that because
I want to talk to you about that. I've been trying to get to that.
Your feelings are not facts. They're always changing. And even in your training to become a therapist, like the basis of the training is not to say, let me figure out how to work with Kelly around her feelings. No, it's to equip you with certain tools or to fill in developmental gaps so that you can continue to set yourself up to function in the most optimal way. And what ends up happening is a lot of people are used to being coddled, and what you need as an adult is not necessarily the same thing that you need as a kid. I mean, our kids, their feelings aren't always valid. I always tell people, they may not always be reasonable. So those are the two, wanting certainty, and then the other side of it is people are wanting to be coddled,
Right.
And want to feel like
seeing her validated.
Yeah, and is that too much? It's to ask
Asking for too much.
Yeah, are people asking for too much? Are we asking for too much?
We're talking about adults,
Adults,
right?
yes.
So the complexity of your life, you're probably mom, wife, entrepreneur, all of those things, like, to some degree, yes, right? Because most people actually come into these sessions and they do have a great deal of awareness. Like, you already know your feelings when you come in and talk to me. You can talk about jealousy. And this is the type of clients that I get. I would say I get more like high achieving. I always say people that march their own beat and drum type of people.
Yeah.
And they're looking to just go to the next level, and they're trying to figure out like what prevents me from going to the certain level, from to the next level. Some of it is you still want to be coddled. And then the other side of it is that certainty, because you've reached a level of success and now you need to know like what's on the other side. And that comes with trust. That's like spiritual development and all of that. So I mean, talk about feelings. And I don't want to go too, because the whole, when I say like the adult you needs the adult you, not your inner child. You're just not you're not a child. Like, I don't know any other way to say it.
Go deal with your emotions. Go sit in the corner and figure it out.
You're not a child. And what you realize is adulthood offers a great deal of complexity. And if we're always focusing on your feelings, we're not necessarily, and I like to use the word developing, because we don't use that term developing for whatever reason. I like to focus on developing, because the way that you work with a child and an adult is not the same. Yeah. It's two different animals. And there's a whole theory and science to say, like, this is how I work with adults. This is what it looks like to support Kelly or Nicole in developing greater mental complexity, because that's what you need. You already are aware of your feelings. Most people come into me and they like, I felt jealous, or I feel anxious, or I feel, okay, so what are we talking about?
That's
like,
me when I go to therapy.
What do you want to talk about?
I tell you all the things that I felt and why I felt them. And then
a waste of time.
Like, what are we here for? Like,
yeah.
Good session.
I mean, but that's good to know, right? Like, so when you go into a therapy session, okay, if we're not talking about feelings, then what are we talking about? Like, what should we be prepared to go to therapy to talk about? Okay.
What's your goal? Like, what are you here for? And I will talk about this because this was my most difficult, because you got to think, therapists are humans, right? Dealing with stuff the same way that you are. But we all operate from a certain belief system. Our belief system drives the way that we view you, the way that we view your issues, the way that we view your problems.
That's as a
therapist. Like, most people default to the easiest modality, like CBT. Everybody says CBT. And
what does that stand for the
cognitive behavioral therapy. So basically saying that, okay, Nicole or Kelly or RaQuel has these irrational thoughts. Let's figure out how to show you how to reframe them. There's a lot of science behind it, but what still doesn't happen is you never really get to like your core belief system. For example, the one that I like to use all the time, people will say that everything happens for a reason. And then they come into a session and then start questioning everything. I'm like, well, you just told me that everything happens for a reason. So how true is it that you believe that? I got off track, so you're gonna have to bring me back, because I forgot where I was going. I get excited when I start talking about this stuff. I get real passionate.
She's in her bag right now because she loves this subject.
I do. I really do.
But what was the question that you had asked?
Girl.
Okay, well, I have one.
It was a question. I don't know. Like,
what do we come into therapy?
Oh yeah, therapy. For. We're not talking about feelings. Then what are we talking about?
What's your goal?
Yeah.
It's when you go into therapy, have a goal. And most people will say they come in to heal. I have my opinion about healing too. But you need to have a goal. If not, I mean, because I tell my clients this too, like, this is a business. We can stay here for as long as you want. I mean, I still get paid. I can sit here and listen to you rattle about your feelings all day, but adults aren't usually coming in to just talk about their feelings. They want like solutions, which is where certainty comes in at, and nobody can offer you that.
Yeah.
So you said you have some opinions on healing. One of the things that, as we were kind of prepping for this, I saw on your Instagram page, which is Success is Complicated. Go follow. You had said, stop trying to heal yourself from being human. What do you mean by that?
So when most people, whether it be coaching or therapy, right? Like Kelly was saying, when you come into therapy, what do you go in there for? would you say that most people come into therapy because they want to heal? Would you say?
Yes.
Yes.
Heal?
Yeah.
Sometimes people just want to talk about their feelings. I've been all of them. Okay. Sometimes you just want to pay for a sounding board. You want to talk about these feelings. You want to be coddled. Sometimes you want to heal, child. Sometimes you want to grow. I mean, it's just, like,
Pick a day.
Pick a day.
Pick a topic.
Exactly. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that I've been to therapy for.
So I'll tell you why I don't like the word healing. The first thing I would say, I don't like the word healing. I don't like it for us, for Black people, because it's this notion that we're broken and there needs to be fixing. And I hear a lot of us come in. Like, I had a session last week, actually, Black woman, very successful, and our session just took a different turn. And I asked her, do you ever think that you will feel worthy? And I said, I just want a yes or no. And she was like, I want to say yes, but and she's feeling like she has to heal all of these things from the past. And when you do that, like, innately, you see something wrong with yourself. So I hate that for us, because therapy is not about healing. I mean, it's a pop culture term, right? We've turned it and changed it into this whole healing thing, but most of us are just doing life. So, and the other reason with healing is so many people get obsessed with it. On a healing journey, like forever. And I'm like, okay, like, at what point do you know that you're healed? Like, do you know when you're going to be healed? And most people don't necessarily have the answers because they want to rid themselves of all of the things that make you being human. Like, you can't bypass the feelings of, whether it be imposter, feeling inferior, fear, just all of the things that we feel as humans, but having the awareness, going back to, because there is a benefit in talking about your feelings, right? Like, if you're aware, then you can take the steps to actually do something with it. But you're gonna have to do life. Like, there's no other, I mean, there is another way around it, but
we don't advocate for that other way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and if you're not mindful about how you use that word healing, people will start to feel like there's not another way to do life. So if we don't change the conversations in terms of how we actually talk about mental health, I think that we're going to continue to see the numbers increase. We're going to continue to see people struggling with their mental health because we've sent the wrong messaging in terms of what it is. More importantly, for people that look like you and I, because other people have a different understanding of what mental health is.
And life is hard, let's be honest. And you're going to go through shit. Obviously, if you live long enough, and we know what the alternative is, but if you live long enough, you're going to go through some things. And I think now there is such a huge focus on like healing and mental health. I mean, it's, if you go online on Instagram, you could just see
can't swing
all
a
of
cat.
I mean, girl, everybody self-proclaimed these there. I don't even know where these therapists are coming from. There's some podcasts that like to talk about relationships and
broken
healing,
people
and
trying to heal.
And it is getting to be overload. At first I was like, okay, well, these are some, nice little golden nuggets.
It's dangerous.
But it's getting to be a lot. It's too much.
It's a lot of qualified people trying to give advice.
Yeah.
It is. But it's, I continue to say that it's a business. It's a booming business too.
And there's a market for it because
there's a market
people are looking for that. And so that's why I think conversations like this are really important because there is a such thing as overhealing. It
is. And you have to think about, because maybe we understand what we're saying when we say like we're wanting to heal, but if you start getting obsessed over it, what ends up happening is once people realize, like, you put yourself in a box, and I always say people, they build their boundaries, they put a wall up, and then life is like, okay, you're good, Kelly. All right, I'm getting ready to knock your wall down.
Exactly. Life is what happens when you make
your wall down.
I'm going to kick your wall down, and then you're like, you go back to therapy, and you're like, oh, I thought I was healed.
That was good, right?
And that's the wrong messaging to send, because I haven't necessarily developed or equipped you with what you need. And it makes me think about adults, right? We don't need more skills. Clearly, I don't need any more skills either. But it's really about changing the shape of your mind. Like you're taking that container and really changing the shape of it, because what happens when we get more skills, what we do is we refer to our past knowledge, previous knowledge, and we're just building upon that. And that doesn't really change anything. It doesn't really change anything.
But does it help for when your walls get kicked down, right? So you're taking the skills and the tools that you get from your last situation.
They might not even apply anymore. You know how when people say like, as you grow or as you evolve, life is going to present a different set of challenges. Those skills and tools may not apply to that same situation. And if you're still trying to pull from that, like I've actually seen people, and I'm not joking about it, because it actually breaks my heart when I see, especially I go back to us, when people are like, all right, let me dig in my bag of tools. And then you're like, well, these tools aren't necessarily working for marriage, or these tools are not necessarily working for my children or how I parent. And it's because we have focused on developing children rather than adults. But I always say people can only meet you as far as they've gone. So I do extend a lot of grace to therapists there, because I didn't go to become a therapist like right out of college and it's been my only career. I had so much exposure before. And because I had so much exposure before, I went in with a different mindset. Like every day I thought I was going to get kicked out of the program. Like, especially when you presented data about us. I'm like, well, where did the data come from? Did it come from where I grew up from? Because if so, of course we're going to struggle with our mental health. And it's so confusing, because on the other side, it doesn't get an opportunity to see people like us. It doesn't get data from Kelly, Nicole, saying that, all right, they're not on that side of the statistics or a data because they have resources. Right. But if you continue, and that's the other part too, because if you're looking at the data, you're like, we're fucked. Like we ain't gonna never heal. And then every time a political situation happens, like, you're right back at your starting point.
Yeah. Well, I think going back to the healing topic, I think we have to just be really careful just as a society just around that, because feeling, right, feeling happy, feeling sad, feeling disappointment, like that's all a part of the human experience. And so to feel or to be made to feel like that's problematic or an issue concerns me. Right, concerns me, because the human experience requires us to feel the highs, the lows. I think you had reposted this on your page, right, about a guy who said like he has these highs, he has these lows, and he wants to be somewhere in the middle. And he was talking to somebody and he was like, well, think about his therapist, think about a heart monitor. If you're somewhere in the middle, you're flatlined, right? So you need to have some of those highs, you need to have some of those lows, and those are the things that really make up the human experience and help shape you, inform you, and the learnings that you have from that and how you handle and work and manage your way through that really is where you're able to reshape your tools, to kind of run with your metaphor a little bit more, reshape your tools so that, you know, if should you need them, they're ready for the next time that, you know, you're going through a human experience.
And we can't forget, like, all of those things that you just mentioned. Resiliency it's important. If you think about how you're raising your children, like, we're raising them to be resilient. We're raising them to understand that when you lose a soccer game, like, it doesn't mean that life is over. Like, you get another chance to do it over. And somehow that entire narrative has changed to some degree. And I think that we need to bring it back to the middle, back to the center. And I think that if we did, we would see the numbers decrease. We would start getting to the core of what people are actually struggling with. And I think it would just help society as a whole. I remember the first time that I went to therapy was one of those political issues. And I was like, I do not want to feel like this every time this happens, because it's bound. Happens, right? Yeah, it's bound to happen. But that's a part of the human experience too. And what ends up happening is, and I always say this, as adults, we see ourselves as like and children do too, right? But it makes sense for them, the center of the universe. Like the world revolves around Yes.
It doesn't?
And when you, no, it doesn't. And when you see yourself as the subject, you're not able to see anything else objectively. So when I work with my clients, it's okay. I see that you're the subject here, but where's the objective part of it as well, so that you can take yourself outside of it. And that's how you start to develop greater mental complexity to deal with whatever challenges that you're going to be faced with.
Yeah. It sounds like to me like most people are in the middle. And I mean, just on the way here to the studio, you know, riding through downtown Houston, you just see just the scores of homeless people, right? And, you know, she and I had a quick conversation. Like, I'm sure there's just a lot of mental health issues that have allowed or people to make the choice. And I'm not saying that everybody makes the choice to live on the street. That's not what I'm saying. But a lot of them do, right? And so, you know, that is one side of it, right? The extreme side. Thank you. I was looking for that word, the extreme side. And then the other side is the overhealing, right? Like constantly searching for ways in which like you can heal, constantly on a journey, just being obsessed with it. I think that listening to you talk and us having this conversation, I realized that most of society is probably somewhere in the middle. Yeah, even keel. So people are not as fucking crazy as like I thought they were, child. Like, okay, this is normal. Okay.
I don't think that people are as crazy as we've made people out to be.
Exactly.
I always say like it's this cycle of, and I like to use this psychosocial development thing, but we're constantly going through this cycle of trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame. And you can think about your kids from that perspective too. Initiative versus guilt, identity versus confusion, generativity versus stagnation, then at some point integrity versus despair. And it's always recycling. It's always recycling. And when I started getting exposed to that, I was like, all right, I'm normal. I'm human. It's okay to feel the way that I feel. It's okay for me to rewrite my narrative. It's okay for me to rethink my identity. So I use those things, but I really challenge myself to not become so attached to how I think things should be or how I think life should look like. Because you know, the stronger that you have like likes and dislikes, the greater the suffering. So
yeah, and holding people to that same standard too, because I think a lot of mental health comes from, you know, not allowing other people to have their own opinions, right? Or trying to change people's minds.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like everybody's allowed to have their own thoughts. Raise his hand.
I just have opinions.
I just have opinions. How many may or may have not gotten mad because somebody had a different opinion than me, but I'm not going to say nothing about it. But just say, like, that could alleviate some stress too, and give it that grace, not only to yourself, but to the people others that you interact with. Yeah.
So, full transparency. Quell came over a couple of weeks ago and blew my mind with a conversation that we had and a follow-up text. And I'm still trying to process the text because it was so insightful. And I'm so thankful that we were able to have the opportunity to have you on this show. And I think that if in our little 2-hour conversation, if I'm still trying to figure out how to process that and like think through some of the things that you shared with me for myself, the people that you're working with are incredibly lucky and incredibly blessed to have you as an advocate and champion for them in their lives.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I shared that from a place of experience, personal experience.
Yes.
So
if people want to like find you, work with you, partner with you, like tell the people all the things and all the ways that they can get a hold of you, reach out to you.
I'm still
what are you doing?
Figuring some things out.
Okay. And that's okay. That's
I'm being honest. I think this is my first time being outside since having a baby.
You look great. Can't tell.
Thank you. But you can follow me at Success is Complicated. I am working on a few things. First thing, and I guess I'll share here on Champagne Wise Podcast, is creating a community for people that are wanting to exercise that muscle of vulnerability, transparency, I'm not going to say a safe space because I just don't like that term.
That's a psychological term.
She's a rebel. She is your unconventional therapist. We love it.
Because the safe space means that you may get triggered being in a room with people that may have different experiences. So it may not always feel safe, and it's okay if it doesn't. But I want to create a community that is centered around success is complicated, and just having weekly calls to talk about the things that we're struggling with, and offering people not necessarily tools, but an opportunity to fill in gaps where we can continue to develop, because a lot of the times as adults, we develop horizontally and we want to see us develop vertically.
Yeah. Love that.
Success is complicated.
But I still don't have it all figured out. So.
None of us do. Work in progress.
Right.
Work in progress.
Always.
Well, RaQuel, thank you so much for being here and having the conversation. I mean, there were a lot of nuggets, right? So it's about grace. Let's not overheal. There's no need, because the human experience is meant to be experienced.
Exactly.
And flaws don't necessarily mean that we're broken.
No.
It just means that we're human. Those are my takeaways. Did you have any takeaways?
I agree. Okay, but we can put a stamp on that.
Bloop. Period. Thank you so much for joining us. And please go follow her and join this community when it goes live. I promise your life will be forever changed.
We'll be a part of it too.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I always tell Nicole, I'm a fan of Champagne Wise podcast. Yay. And I may get that your followers may hate this for me, but I think that you guys should go back to being unconventional in the sense that you were. You're two beautiful women that have different perspectives and they're nice. That's why I watch.
Okay.
Because you don't have the same views as me. You don't have the same views as me. But I do get a cackle out of it.
Well, they are coming for our next
We are moving. It's okay.
We're going to be calling you when they start coming for our next
Be like, private session.
Right, exactly.
I'll respond to the comments for you.
Thank you. That would be great.
Ghostwriter.
Because we're trying to help people develop themselves too.
Yes, come out of your mama's basement and do something with your life.
Ooh. Goodness.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're going to transition to what's poppin'.
What's poppin'? Let's get into it. So I owe y'all an update. So I'm going to go first, if you do not mind. Okay.
Floor is yours.
So last week we had a conversation about Beyonce tickets. It was announced that she's going on a world tour, Renaissance world tour. And we were talking about just the whole process of getting on the wait list and going to the show, and kind of about how much we were willing to spend on these tickets, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So initially, I was waitlisted. So
And we found out that you were waitlisted right after the cameras went off here.
Oh yeah, on our way home, right?
We were in studio.
Really?
You were like, fuck, I'm waitlisted.
Really? Okay, I don't even remember. This has been very traumatic for me, y'all.
Yeah.
So signed up for pre-sale tickets. I signed up through a City, like I said, because I'm not a part of the Beehive. So I signed up through City pre-sale.
Right.
Got waitlisted. And then I think maybe 2 days later, I got a text message saying, here is your access code. Go to Ticketmaster and get your tickets. Now, mind you, let me set the scene. I'm at my home office. I am waiting because I have 10 minutes before I have to hop on a call with our new VP to do introductions. So I get this text message saying you can go. But at the same time, I have been waiting for this text message, y'all, because I was like, when are they going to send me this link? So I have been, my phone was plastered to me. I was waiting.
Right.
So got the text message, went online, started texting the group, the Renaissance group. Okay, y'all, I'm in. What's going to happen with these tickets? That took about 5 minutes, right? Of just kind of confirming everyone's budget and getting in alignment with how much we all were willing to spend on these tickets. So I have 5 minutes until I have to get on my call with this VP and be smiling and, coherent. So get into Ticketmaster site and the fight for my life began. It was so fucking crazy. Like I've heard people like after the fact saying like I was fighting for my life, but I was like literally in the fight for my life on this website, child. Like it was crazy. So you had so first of all, I needed 4 tickets. 4 seats together. So that already kind of put me at a disadvantage because I needed so many damn tickets. Like it would have been easier, I feel like, if I would have gone in and gotten like 2 tickets. But anyway, so I needed 4 tickets. So every time I would click on a set of tickets, now mind you, I'm going back and forth between my text group and the website saying, here are some seats, here's the cost, here's the cost. And tickets were starting at the time when I first got in. They were like 3 something, 4 something,
340s,
which was perfect. And so every time I would click on tickets, a set of tickets, series of tickets, they were like, oh, another fan already got you to these beat you to these tickets.
And you were like really quick with it. She would screenshot. She'd be like, what about these? We'd all be like, heart, thumbs up, let's go. Yeah. And then she'd be ready to buy them and they were
gone. So when I, oops, another fan has already gotten these tickets. Oops. I'm like, fuck. So I would have to go back. Then they would like auto set me to 2 tickets. So I'll have to reset back to 4. Girl, it was a mess. I was sweating, like literally sweating. So in the midst of all this happening, now mind you, now I have like maybe 3 minutes to my call. The price is jacked the fuck up in real time.
In real time.
Like the ticket price is double. Like literally double. And I was just like, what?
I thought it was a wrap for us. At that point, I thought it was a wrap for us. I was just like, okay, well, because I told you what my plan was. My plan was to go get a job at NRG as concessions and to go work the ice cream or the cotton candy or the pretzel stand.
Yes.
On the day of the concert.
That's plan B.
And then to quit.
Right. The day of. Leaving them short
when the lights went out. When the lights went out for Beyonce to enter, I was going to quit.
Done. You can have this
job. Right. That was my plan. I was resigned to that when the ticket price doubled.
You know how many people are actually probably going to do that?
Get on game, child.
That's a good idea. There you go. Free game. Anyway. So finally, the tickets increased on me in real time. And I was just like, what the fuck has just happened? So then I have to go back to my group and be like, okay, look, I know I told y'all the tickets were this price, but now they're this price. I'm stressed. So long story short, I was able to secure 4 tickets at double the price that I initially saw. And we're in that thing. We're going to Beyonce. We got great tickets. We're in the 100 section, great seats, right across, right center stage, in front of the stage. So I'm very happy that I was able to secure these tickets. And I think around like the 2 or 1 minute mark before my call started, this one was just like, open your door. I was like, bitch, Jesus, send a savior. Like, because I was literally about to go crazy. And she was just like, open your door. So I'm like, open my door. Here she comes. And by this time, it's time for me to get on the call. So she had to like finish the transaction. I'm like, here, Nicole, take my phone. Just like, take my phone.
I'm over here putting the face to her phone.
I was like, send the tickets to everybody. Let everybody know, like, we're good. Complete the transaction, please.
Yeah.
But that is my story, my crazy story on how I got Beyonce Renaissance tickets. Yeah. And I'm happy we're going. We're excited. But there's still people who are waiting.
And we'll put a reel together around it because obviously
because then we had the celebratory dance.
We did. Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, after I got off my call, I ran over to Nicole's house and I'm like, with Cuff It playing. Like, we did like a quick little dance.
It's a good time.
And we're in that bitch. But yeah.
It's going to be a whole event. Now we have about 8 months to plan, 7 months to plan our fits. What we're going to do for dinner, like before, pre-post. It's going to be a whole deal. It's going to be a thing.
It's going to be a thing.
Very excited.
Yes.
Very,
so
very
we're excited.
Okay, so that's Renaissance. Did you have an actual what's poppin' topic?
No, that's my what's poppin'. I there's nothing else as important, child.
I know.
Like I had to give an update on that. But that's my what's poppin'.
So yes, bring it full circle. We're there. Yes. And so my what's poppin'. we don't like to date and or timestamp things, but we're wearing red and pink. So, I mean, obviously Valentine's Day is around the corner. And so the Super Bowl just happened. And as much as I am a Beyonce fan, I'm probably more of a Rihanna fan. And yesterday she performed at the Super Bowl. And there's mixed opinions about the performance. Some people feel like it was a fantastic just demonstration of her catalog. Others feel like it was a lackluster performance. Obviously, we now know that she's pregnant with ASAP's second child. And I know y'all are out here trying to figure out the math and see if she waited 6 weeks, but it's none of our business. They're grown folks. Let them do what grown folks do.
Quell just said that. It's not our business.
Not our business. But yeah, we have a Super Bowl performance that left some things to be desired, depending on what camp you're in. I am a part of the Navy as well as the Beehive. I have dual citizenship. So I will tell you, I've seen Rihanna twice in concert. I've seen Beyonce 3 times, maybe 4 times in concert. Only because Beyonce tours more. But I will tell you this. As a Navy, I don't know what the hell I am, but as a part of the Navy, I don't know what the adjective is, but as a part of the Navy, I didn't walk into this performance having high levels of expectation around a performance.
Oh, really?
No, because I've seen her in concert. And what Rihanna is going to do is saunter on stage, give you a little wine.
What she want to do?
She going to wind that
a little bit, girl.
And then she go give you what you
give
get.
You the hits.
And she going to give you a strong catalog.
Yeah.
And her catalog, if we just talk facts, catalog is stronger in terms of number ones than Beyonce. But if we're talking about performance, she will never hold a candle to Beyonce.
Oh.
She will never.
Okay.
But in terms of catalog strength, she absolutely does top Beyonce. Now, when I saw this performance, what I knew to be true is that we will never get another album out of Rihanna.
She's done.
She's done.
She's done with shooting.
We will never get another album. I mean, she is put a beautiful bow on her career. Her final single.
You think so?
Her final single was Lift Me Up with Black Panther 2. So she has a soundtrack single, a nice little bow. In terms of performance.
You think so?
In terms of performances.
You think we'll never get another album?
I think she's done. I think she is about this being a mom life, and she is about this entrepreneurship. Yeah. I think she has lost her joy for music. And I said this yesterday in our text. I think she has lost her joy for music, and who knows the whys behind it.
Yeah.
She started her career very, very, very early and at a very young age. And so she probably has seen a lot. But I think she's done.
Yeah.
I think she's done. And I think she's ready to move on and transition. It's development, growth, evolution. And I think
stepping out on faith and trying something new. I mean, she's very successful with Fenty.
Of course. Like, that's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we should continue to harbor the expectation that she's going to give us another album. She had a soundtrack single for a movie that went, billions of dollars around the world. And she had the biggest stage to be able to do her last performance on. Yeah. So Riri, I love you. I get it. I'm sad, but I get it. And I'm just thankful that we have 17 years worth of work that you've done that we will continue to play. But she's done.
I will say this. I think everybody owes Stephen A. an apology. For his comments on Sherry Shepherd's show. And he was just like, I love Rihanna. Oh, okay. She's great. She's a wonderful person. But she's not a Beyonce. Everybody ripped his head off talking about he was pitting 2 Black women against each other. But looking at this performance on Sunday, I now get what he was saying. She is not inferior in any way, is undeserving of this platform. Yeah. Because she absolutely was. Yeah. But in terms of performance, on the biggest stage, Beyonce killed that shit. Yeah. Killed that shit. But it's not a comparison. Right. Well, it's not. It's just a fact.
It's apples to oranges. They're both fruits. They're both fruits, and that's the only comparison. Yeah. That they're both fruits. But Rihanna has an amazing catalog. There was not a single song that was played yesterday that none of us couldn't sing along to. And Beyonce not only had the songs, There were some songs we were like, huh, but she had songs and song strength, but she killed.
She
bodied that performance.
But you know what? I actually saw her performance. There was like a list, like Yahoo does like these lists.
Right.
And it was like a list of worst
Super Bowl
performances.
Yeah.
And her latest performance was on there.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was on there, because it said that she tried to give a political message during the Super Bowl where that may not have been the most appropriate time to, send a message. You know, she had on like the Black Panther, like she was militant.
Right.
And I thought it was awesome. And everybody in my circle, right, thought it was the best performance ever. But I mean, people outside of our circle, obviously.
And was that the Super Bowl that was in New Orleans?
I don't think it was in New Orleans.
Okay.
I don't remember. But you remember she had on the black, the black little, beret.
Yeah.
I thought she killed.
She did. It was an amazing
she was
performance.
she was everywhere. She was on the stage. She was on the field. She was in the freaking stands.
I was on my feet the entire 13 minutes.
time.
Yeah.
The entire time. Like, she killed it.
And
but
what I'll also say, a lot of times I don't like to say this, but I thought J-Lo's performance was actually better than Rihanna's.
yeah, she had a lot too. She had a lot of gimmicks, like a lot of props and colors and things going on. She brought her daughter out. It was a good performance.
Yeah.
Then vocals, child. Let's end it on that note because
on that note. So where can they find us? No, I'm kidding. That's what's popping.
Okay.
That's what's popping. Beyonce, Rihanna, two of our favorites.
Two queens, two Black queens.
Yes.
And we are just so proud of both of them.
Yeah, for real.
For performing at the Super Bowl.
Celebrating Black History Month.
Absolutely.
And I'm just so thankful we had a Black artist performing at the Super Bowl during Black History Month. And that doesn't fall flat with me. So
let's cheers to that.
Cheers to that. And please, if you want to follow us, you can follow us at Champagne Wives Podcast on Instagram. You can find us on the TikTok at champagnewives_podcast. And if you have questions, feedback, any of that, you can email us at champagnewives@gmail.com. Thanks so much. Another episode in the books, and we will see you next week.
Same time, same place. Bye, y'all.
Bye.